Today, RFK Jr. has announced major cuts to the Department of Human Services. In a newly unveiled plan, 10,000 jobs will be cut across several agencies. The cuts are expected to downsize multiple departments and consolidate several others. HHS oversees 13 agencies, including the CDC, FDA, Medicare, and Medicaid. The announcement comes as Democrats sound the alarm over changes to Social Security and potential cuts coming to Medicaid through Congress. Joining me now is the Hill's White House reporter, Alex Gangitano. Hi, Alex. So these are pretty big changes for HHS. How will they appear to the public? How's the public going to see this?
Right. As you mentioned, all the things that HHS oversees, I mean, these are a lot of public-facing services. So if you hear that 10,000 people are being cut from an administration that deals with Medicaid, I mean, that's a huge issue for a lot of Americans. And I think the Trump administration has tried to make clear we're not doing cuts to Social Security, we're not doing cuts to Medicaid, but people are still tinkering on, I'm not sure if we really believe you because you're so focused on this government overhaul. Again, also, RFK has said, we want to do a lot with this agency. I want to make a lot of changes. And so with these cuts, it's interesting, how will these changes be implemented? How's he going to put this administration into a healthy America or the AHA that he wants to create with less workers? So are they going to bring people in, or are they going to move people from other services that people deem are essential? So I think there's a lot of questions, but this is something that's so personal to people, just what HHS does.
And he's a well-known vaccine skeptic. I think that's how a lot of people recognize RFK Jr. Is this going to involve that in any way? Do we know?
Right. I mean, when he was going through the confirmation Senate proceedings, he had said, I'm not going to let my experiences, my thoughts of maybe in the past or now impact my work. But if he's not a believer in science or continuing studies on things like vaccines, that would impact the work that HHS does. So I think as much as he tried to and did sway a lot of Republican senators with those hearings, people are still skeptical if he really means what he had said in those about vaccines.
Speaking of big agency cuts, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem is talking about gutting FEMA. It's a disaster relief program that victims have often complained about in the past. But I just wonder, if you do away with it, all the institutional knowledge that FEMA has gained over the years and what to do and what not to do in disaster response, what happens the next time there's a disaster?
That's right. I mean, disasters, it comes as we see administration officials, we see federal officials heading to the ground, then we have state and local officials also working with them. So that's a lot of manpower, a lot of institutional knowledge, as you mentioned, that gets deployed in these kinds of situations. But this aligns with the thinking of President Trump since early in the administration. When he went to California to meet with Governor Newsom after those wildfires, he said, we think FEMA should go back to the states even then. So this has been a long time coming, that he thinks this is something that states should have to deal with. But how that actually impacts states that maybe don't have the budget to step up their efforts towards disaster relief, rely a lot on the federal government to have the brainpower to deal with some of these issues that maybe they don't have as much staffing at the local level. So this is, I think, something that's kind of inevitable is going to happen because, as I mentioned, Trump's been eyeing it for so long. But how that actually gets implemented, it will take the first disaster, unfortunately, after FEMA's eliminated or moved to the states to see how it all works out.
And if each state is forced to have its own disaster relief agency, it seems like there could be a lot of duplication there that could end up being possibly a waste of money. Yeah. Starting on April 3rd, President Trump says he will impose 25% tariffs on vehicle and auto parts. Let's take a listen to the president.
This is the beginning of Liberation Day in America. So we'll effectively be charging a 25% tariff. But if you build your car in the United States, there is no tariff. And what that means is a lot of foreign car companies, a lot of companies are going to be in great shape because they've already built their plant, but their plants are underutilized, so they'll be able to expand them inexpensively and quickly.
So this is like a weekly occurrence. Trump announces a tariff, the world runs around with like a chicken with its head cut off. Sometimes he backtracks, sometimes he doesn't. I don't know, is this real? Should we freak out?
That's right. I mean, the president has been using tariffs as a negotiation tactic for the last few months or couple of months, that he'll say, we're going to impose these, and then he gets a call from the president of Mexico who says, actually, let me secure the border more tightly, and he backs off a little bit. So This is often seen as a tactic like that, but the president has really been escalating, I think, this anti-Europe sentiment, and these tariffs on auto parts would impact countries like Germany really heavily that import a lot of cars into the U.S. And so does he actually want to, kind of stick it to Europe when he thinks that they've been treating us unfairly and we've been making up for a lot of the slack that they have been putting on global markets? So he's been promising a lot. There are some, I think we'll see if the U.S. market, the U.S. economy actually takes this one seriously, because there will be a plunge on April 2nd if these things actually go into effect on our U.S. stock market, as we saw, that kind of teased earlier this month. But that also comes when he's also putting in place reciprocal tariffs on all of our trading partners. So that's a big hit on all of us.
And the European Trade Commissioner in Beijing this week, so there's a lot of questions about whether Trump's rhetoric and policy toward Europe will push Europe into the arms of China. I want to talk about Democratic Texas Representative Jasmine Crockett. She's facing some controversy after mocking Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Let's take a listen.
Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now. And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot mess, honey. So yes.
Abbott was paralyzed from the waist down when a tree fell on him 40 years ago. Crockett says she wasn't talking about his disability, rather referring to Abbott's busing of migrants to cities with black mayors across the country. There's an effort by a Texas congressman to censure Crockett. The pearl clutching from Republicans is a bit hypocritical, considering President Trump has been making fun of people for the last 20 years. But I wonder if you think we can expect more of this from Democrats as they try to compete in a media environment that rewards the outlandish.
Yeah, provocative statements from Congresswoman Crockett have put her on this national level for years now, since she's been in office. And this is just one of the many things that have raised her profile. So you're right. If Democrats think if we have to go tit for tat with Republicans here and they're doing the name calling, why don't we do name calling right back, get into the national conversation? This is one tactic. I think Governor Abbott's looking at it in an interesting way. He said, we're actually just going to beat Democrats in Texas when the next elections come up, and use that against them. He's saying that Texas is moving more red. So to his point, this will all come out in elections. If people find somebody too provocative or too extreme with their rhetoric or offensive with their rhetoric, they will get voted out of office. Now, that didn't stop President Trump from being reelected in this past election. And so how much voters actually care about this kind of rhetoric is up for debate, considering President Trump has had a lot of passes on comments like this and name calling, as you mentioned.
The old adage, there's no such thing as bad publicity, has been fully adopted in politics. I want to ask quickly about this planned trip by the Vice President to Greenland. There's been a lot of controversy surrounding that. It seems to be the trip has been scaled back a little bit, and that's alleviating some of the concerns. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, there's a lot of backlash from Greenland officials when even the second lady was going there. That was to see a dog sled race. Now they've actually put more pressure, made a more aggressive stance, saying, okay, we won't go to the dog sled race, but it's not going to be just the second lady now. So Vice President Vance is going there to see a military installation that belonged to the U.S. as kind of a workaround, but this all comes as the president has said, we really want Greenland, and doesn't seem to be backing down on that at all.
Trump says we're going to take it one way or another. So we will have to continue to follow that and see what happens. But for now, we'll leave it at that. Alex Gangitano.
Thanks, Drew.
It's just 3 months until the New York City mayoral race Democratic primary, and the election is heating up. Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo entered the race in early March and boasts rising poll numbers. He's stacked up against a roster of competitors, including incumbent embattled Mayor Eric Adams and State Assembly member Zohran Mamdani, who made headlines recently for his confrontation with Trump border czar Tom Homan. Joining us to break it all down is Matt Taglia, Senior Director of Emerson College Polling. Matt, thanks so much for joining us. Emerson College Polling released these new numbers this week on the New York City mayoral race, both for the Democratic primary and hypothetical general election. Walk us through the crosstabs What are they telling us about the Democratic candidates?
Yeah, and we see a fairly commanding lead for Cuomo here, 38%. In second place, we have Mamdani at 10%, followed by Adams at 8%, Ramos and Lander both at 6%. We also see 17% are undecided. That's down about 10 points since February. Cuomo's support here is really strong, and it follows with age. So the older you are, the more likely you are to support Cuomo. We also see pretty strong support from Black and Hispanic voters here. He wins them with strong pluralities. So really, across the board, strong numbers for Cuomo. If we look at Mamdani, who has come up quite a bit since our last poll, his greatest share of support comes from voters who are under the age of 40, but they also spread out their support. He's really not winning a plurality here. He'll have to win those voters pretty heavily in order to stand a chance, especially in that second round.
Very interesting race in New York. We'll be sure to check back with you before we get to that primary vote, but for now, leave it at that. Matt Taglia, thanks so much.
We applaud the effort of state and local law enforcement. This was a very violent individual who was picked up in a home with 5 children present. So our communities are safer this morning, and it's a good day for our country.
U.S. authorities taking a victory lap after capturing the top leader of the street gang MS-13 on the east coast of the United States. Officials say they caught the 24-year-old in Woodbridge, Virginia, just south of Washington, D.C. News Nation's Ali Bradley has been following the story and has more details.
Yeah, Attorney General Pam Bondi making the announcement this morning that with a joint effort between federal partners and Virginia state partners, they actually made the apprehension of one of the top 3 leaders of the violent MS-13 gang, saying he was the leader of the entire East Coast. Now, they're saying that this illegal immigrant from El Salvador, he was actually recruited at a very early age, and he rose to power. Where they nabbed this guy was actually in Dale City, Virginia. That's only about 30 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. Take a listen to what the Attorney General had to say.
He will not be living in our country much longer. He's in custody this morning. One of the top leaders right here near our nation's capital. Anything you can associate with MS-13, he was the leader over it. All of the violent crimes. So he's very dangerous. He should not have been in this country. He's from El Salvador, and he was recruited at a very early age, and it rose to the leadership. And you have to be bad, you have to be tough to get there. But he is no longer tough because he is behind bars.
Now, FBI Director Kash Patel having a stern warning this morning for anyone here illegally, saying leave now.
If you are here illegally, you will not be here any longer. And if you are going to continue to commit acts of violent crime, you will meet the same fate that this individual did this morning.
Now, Virginia's governor, he actually came out today and said that they signed on to the ICE program 287G that allowed them to be part of this effort with a task force that they've been working under for about a month. He says over the last month, they've arrested more than 340 criminal illegal immigrants in the state. He says make it clear right now in Virginia that it is not a sanctuary state, and any jurisdictions that are upholding these sanctuary policies, he's calling for them to be defunded.
Virginia is not a sanctuary state. We are working to get the bad guys out of here. And if you are a local jurisdiction and not helping us and not cooperating with us, you are working against the safety of all of those men and women that call your jurisdiction home.
Now, this all comes on the heels of DHS Secretary Kristi Noem's visit to El Salvador, where she's going to be visiting Colombia today. There she'll be meeting with the president and other officials to talk about immigration and drug trafficking and preventing that from coming into the United States. Now, that relationship is a little bit strained. Back in January, the president there, he actually refused deportation flights from the United States. Now he is actually using his own planes to pick up those deportees twice a week, according to our sources. Now, we can show you some exclusive data here that we obtained through our DHS sources that show that there are over 30,000 Colombian nationals in the United States right now with a final order of removal. That is based on that exclusive data, and there are nearly 400,000 who have active cases across the nation, and only about 1,600 of them are currently in custody. That data also showing 311 of those individuals have criminal convictions. Now, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem is slated to be in Mexico tomorrow, meeting with Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum. Drew?
News Nation's Ali Bradley. Thank you. A Turkish national studying at Tufts University just outside of Boston was arrested and physically restrained by immigration officers near her apartment earlier this week, and it was all caught on camera. Take a look at this video. According to her attorney, Rumeysa Ozturk was on her way to break Ramadan fast with some friends when you can see 6 plainclothes officers surround her. One grabs her arms while another pulls out a concealed badge and confiscates her cell phone. The officers later pull coverings over their mouths and noses as they lead Ozturk off. A Department of Homeland Security spokesperson said Wednesday that the PhD student was engaged in activities in support of Hamas, but did not specify what those activities were. Ozturk, who was in the country on a valid F1 student visa, co-wrote an op-ed in the school newspaper last March that criticized the Tufts University's response to student calls to divest from companies with ties to Israel. University officials say the school had no prior knowledge of her arrest.
I don't care what movement you're involved in. Why would any country in the world allow people to come and disrupt? Now, we gave you a visa to come and study and get a degree, not to become a social activist that tears up our university campuses. And if we've given you a visa and then you decide to do that, we're going to take it away. I encourage every country to do that.
Following her arrest, Ozturk was moved to the Central Louisiana ICE Processing Center despite an order from a Massachusetts judge ordering her not to be moved. It's unclear if the move was before or after the order came down. Meantime, the University of Alabama confirming one of its doctoral students, an Iranian national, has also been arrested by ICE. As of this taping, it is unclear what official charges, if any, have been filed against either student. These are just the latest arrests as the Trump administration continues its crackdown on foreign students associated with the pro-Palestinian protests last spring. That crackdown began with Columbia University graduate Mahmoud Khalil, who was arrested earlier this month for his role in Columbia University protests. Khalil is still in federal custody. That's today's Daily Debrief. I'm Drew Petrimoulx. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Hills YouTube channel, and come back here soon for the intersection between politics and policy.